Hello students, today's agenda is to check homework. We'll be learning variable coefficients and you will be able to do 2.9. Today students will be able to solve equations with variable coefficients. And so we have a scenario related to that, and it says your friend has a trailer full of boxes with toys. Do we know how many trailers there are? Yes, it says a trailer, so that's one. Full of boxes, we don't know how many boxes, so we put X. And with toys, and so since it's inside, these are inside of the boxes are inside of the trailer, that means that it's multiplication, okay? He opened his trailer and took some toys out of the trailer. Do we know how many toys he took from the trailer? It doesn't say, it says took some toys out, okay? So minus, and since it's not the same, if we say Y, that means that he's taking all the toys in one box, but no, we don't know, it just says some toys, so that's gonna be a completely different variable. Okay, again, even though these are toys and these are toys, the amount of toys inside of each box is not the same as the amount of toys he's taking out of the trailer. In the end, he had 2,350 toys. So in the end, it means equal this much or this many toys. How many toys may there be in each box? Since we have expressions in here and we have variables, we might not know exactly how many toys there are in each box, but we can find an expression that represents that. And so let's see what it says in here. Your friend has a trailer full of boxes. So 1x, we don't need to put the 1 trailer as the coefficient, because coefficient 1s we never write. With toys. But then he opened his trailer and took some toys out of the trailer. And in the end, he has 2,350 toys. So that's the equation that represents what is going on in here. Now it says, how many toys may there be in each box? That means that we're leaving X by itself, solving X, isolating X, because we need to know what the value of that is, okay? So we're going to, if we're subtracting Z, we're going to add Z to both sides. These are not like terms. On this side, we end up with XY equals. Since we cannot combine these, we're going to put Z plus 2,350. Finally, this means multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide by by Y. And you know what? I just realized it's asking how many toys are there in each box. The number of toys is represented by Y. So no, we're going to divide by X and leave Y by itself. I apologize about that. This cancels, and so Y, which is the number of toys in each box, is equals to Z plus 2,350 divided by X. So this final answer represents that if we knew the value of the number of toys that we took out and add that to the total that we have and divide it by the number of boxes, we'll know how many toys there are per box. Okay, so again, in here we're just working with variable coefficients and we're not going to really be able to solve. Okay. Here's another one. I'm sorry, it shouldn't be there. It says you have some boxes of books. Your friend gives you a few more books. Now you have a certain amount of books. Set up and solve the equation. Solve for X. So in here, First of all, we don't have, it says you have some boxes. Do we know how many boxes? No, so that immediately represents X. Some boxes of books. Do we know how many books? No, so we put Y to represent the number of books in each box. Your friend gives you a few more books. We don't know how many, and those are not inside of the boxes or inside of other containers. So they give you a few more, so that means that you're going to add, and it's not the same in here, so it's going to be another variable. So let's put plus Z. Now you have a certain amount of books. So in here, we don't even know the answer. Okay, so that means now you have, so that's equal, some other number. And since we already finished the end of the alphabet, we're just gonna start either from the beginning or just put another variable. Any one is fine. So now you have a certain amount of books equals something else that we don't know, because we don't know what he ended or you ended up with. So it says set up the equation, solve the equation, solve for X. So we know that these are multiplied because there are books inside of the boxes, and that's why it's multiplication. So that's why we have here X times Y. But then you get some more books, that's you add those, okay, to whatever you have. So these are inside of this, that's why we multiply, but in here, these are just added to those. So plus Z, and then you end up with some amount of books that we don't know, so that's why we use the other variable. We want to solve for X, so we're going to subtract Z. Remember that adding, when you have multiplication and addition, if it's not protected by division, then you add and subtract first. That's why you cancel first. And then at the end, the multiplication. So if you're adding Z, we subtract Z from both sides. We get X times Y is equals to W minus Z. Finally, if you're multiplying, the opposite of multiplication is division, and we want to leave X by itself, so we're going to divide by Y. This cancels, and so X is equals to W minus Z divided by Y. And so that will be the solution. So these are just two examples of how it relates to real life. We don't really know exactly the amount, but it's represented by an equation with variables only. But now let's look at some examples in here. So you have solve for X. Again, when it says solve for X, it means leave X by itself. So you're gonna get rid of the other variables. So if I'm adding B, the opposite is to subtract B. Remember that addition and subtraction goes first, except in some situations, and I have one in here, so I'll show you in a minute. So you get AX is equals to negative B plus 5. The trend is that you put the variable first and then the constant. That's why I put the negative B in here, okay? Doesn't always happen, but that's usually what it should be. If you have multiplication in here, the opposite is to divide by A. And so the value of X is equals to, we cannot simplify anything in here, okay? So it's gonna be negative B plus 5 divided by A. And that's going to be our answer. Okay, for number 4, very similar, but now you have a subtraction in here. You want to leave X by itself, first get rid of the addition and subtraction. So in here, we're subtracting Q. The opposite is to add Q. Let me put a little dash in here so that we don't get confused with number 9. PX is equals to R plus Q. Finally, if we're multiplying, the opposite is to divide by P. And so X is equals to Nothing to be simplified, so you just bring it down the way it is. R plus Q divided by P. Okay, and that's going to be my answer. So basically in here you're just doing opposite or inverse operations. The only difference is that in here we cannot combine, they're variables only, or so you leave them as an expression. Okay, in here we're dividing x by a and then subtracting b. So we're going to cancel b first. Okay, if we're subtracting b, the opposite is to add b to both sides. X divided by a is equals to, ideally this is going to be b plus c. And actually that will be the case in here too, where you have alphabetical order. Okay, so now b plus c is right here. If we're dividing, the opposite is to multiply by a, but be careful, you're multiplying everything that is there already. So this whole thing needs to be multiplied by that a. This cancels, and so now x is going to be a times b is ab. A times c, and it's positive because both are positive, a times c is ac. And that's all you're going to have. Okay, so in here you had to do distributive property. Okay. Okay, for this one, it's very simple. All you're doing is, if it's multiplying, the opposite is to divide by b. And so you get x equals, nothing can cancel, so it's just going to be CD divided by B. That's all. That's all you're going to do in that one. Okay, number 7. Again, you have a division and an addition. Because the addition is lonely, if we're adding, the opposite is to subtract B. You get x divided by 2 equals, we have PQ minus B. Finally, if we're dividing by 2, the opposite is to multiply both sides by 2. But again, be careful because that 2 is multiplying with everything that was there before. So with each term, we need to multiply the 2. And so we get, this cancels, we get x is equals to 2 times PQ, 2PQ. Negative times positive, negative. 2 times B, 2B. And that's it. Okay, nothing else to be done in there. We're almost done, 3 more. This is very similar, but now we have numbers on both sides of the equal sign. So if we're adding 6, the opposite is to subtract 6. We get x over a equals, in here we can simplify. We're not going to put one variable next to the other or one number next to the other. We're just going to subtract because those are constants. So 12 minus 6, you get 6. Finally, if we're dividing by a, the opposite is to multiply by a. This cancels, and you get x equals, this is a number in a variable, so we're just going to put 6 times a is 6a. This is the case that I was telling you about, where you cannot cancel the addition and subtraction first. And the reason is because the whole thing is being divided by d, including that negative b. Okay, in here, the b is not being divided by the 2, so that's why you cancel it first. But in here, it's protected by that d. So, in that case, we're not going to add b. What we're going to do is multiply by d. Okay, if we're dividing all of these by d, we're going to multiply by d. This cancels, and now I get x minus b equals c times d is cd. Finally, if we're subtracting b, we're going to add b to both sides. This cancels and you get x equals, nothing can be combined, so it's just going to be CD plus B. CD plus B. And that's going to be my answer. A little crowded in there, but okay, the last one. Yay! So in here we have AX plus C. We need to cancel the plus C by subtracting C from both sides. We're gonna have AX equals, in here, I don't know if you want to put 23 minus C or negative C plus 23. Either way, either one is correct, okay? I'm just gonna put 23 minus C. Finally, if we're multiplying, the opposite is to divide by A. And so your answer is X equals, nothing can simplify, so you're just going to put 23 minus C divided by A. And that's going to be our answer. Okay, so X is equals to, 23 minus C over A. Now, if you decided to swap those, that's okay. It would be X equals, let me write it in here, very tiny. The other way of writing it is negative C plus 23, because 23 is positive, divided by A. So if you want to switch those around because of the alphabetical order, that's also fine. Both are correct, okay? And so with this, you're now able to work on 2.9 and have fun.